Hi, my name is Tee Persad. I'm a lawyer, mediator, and consultant focusing on helping small and medium-sized businesses in Orlando, Florida. Welcome to the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast. Today I have as our guest Phil Senderowitz. Phil is the managing director of Strategic Retirement Partners. It focuses on providing financial services to professionals, including retirement planning. Well, Phil, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You know, it's great to have you here, Phil. One of the things I really enjoy is talking to people who not only run and operate a business, and I know that you service clients in your business, but you're also involved in the growth and development of your firm. Mm-hmm. And so not only do you have the technical part of the work, but you have the leadership part of the work, you have the administrative part of the work, you have the organizational development part of the work, which is quite a few hats, and juggling all those responsibilities sometimes becomes a little challenging. I particularly like to talk to people like you because not only do you help other people achieve growth and development in your area of expertise, but you actually practice what you preach. You eat your own cooking.
Certainly.
And that's pretty important for me. I certainly work with a lot of businesses, and the businesses that I work with, I try my best not to introduce them to any concept that I wouldn't try or do myself. I strongly believe that if I'm so confident in the strategy working, the tool working, and that knowledge being useful, that I ought to apply it myself and see the results myself. And so I can certainly appreciate it in someone else. Phil, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you went to high school in Miami, and you graduated from Miami Beach High School in 1987. What happened since then?
Well, so my parents are originally from Pennsylvania and got divorced when I was very young. And so my mom still lives in Pennsylvania. My dad lives in Miami. So I went to school in Miami Beach. Then I went to college up in Pennsylvania. My dad actually had been a Penn State grad, and so I went to Penn State, and then worked for a little bit up in Philadelphia. I had always wanted to be in the investment arena. I graduated college in '91, and if anyone's ever seen Wolf of Wall Street, that's essentially where I worked.
I literally just watched that movie 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so that was my first introduction to the financial services world. And I did that for about 6 months and realized, hey, I'm not making any money. My clients aren't making any money, but that guy in the corner office is sure making a lot of money. Yeah. This is not what I want to do. And so it was now February in Pennsylvania, and I said, if I'm going to be unemployed, I'm going to be warm and unemployed. And so I moved back to Miami and got a job in, first job in Miami was working at Fridays. This is back in the Iraq War was going on and everything. And so it was a recession. And so I was like—
You mean Fridays, TGIF?
Yes, TGI Fridays. Yeah. And I worked as a waiter there. I still distinctly remember the interview saying, the guy interviewing me said, "Do you have a college degree?" And I said, "Well, actually, yes, I do." And he said, "Great, you're going to fit in great here."
Okay.
But I was looking for another job in financial services at the time, and I actually took a pay cut from Fridays to work at Charles Schwab in Miami. Probably the best decision I ever made, because that going from the type of organization like I worked with, it was called Thomas James Associates. Mm-hmm. Sounds like Raymond James, but it actually isn't. But we're going from an organization like that to Charles Schwab, which I thought was still to this day, I think is one of the most ethical organizations and just really cares about their employees, cares about their clients. And so it was just such a contrast and really resonated with me.
And you were there for 6 years.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and that's how I ended up coming up to Orlando. They moved me from Miami up to, they have a large operation here in Orlando. I actually covered the whole Central and North Florida region for them on the sales side for a while. And then they paid for my MBA at Rollins College. I'd always wanted to actually invest money and be a money manager. So with my MBA, I ended up getting a job at SunTrust, at the time STI Capital Management, mm-hmm. and working on the institutional money management side of the fence.
And then from SunTrust, you went off to, was it Chesapeake Financial?
At Chesapeake Financial, I worked with the same types of clients I'm working with today in help employee benefits, more specifically on 401ks and retirement plans. The firm dealt with the health insurance and the other types of benefits. Worked there, really enjoyed what I was doing, but unfortunately my last name wasn't Chepnick, so I wasn't going to ever be a principal in the firm. And I left there because I wanted to run my own show and really have a larger stake in what I was building for the future. So I left there and joined another organization called 401k Advisors, which was really almost like a franchise model where it was like-minded individuals in the same industry building our own practices and owning our own practices of working with small and medium-sized businesses with their retirement plans and making sure that they align with the values and goals of the company to deliver results that benefit all parties.
And after being there for 6 years, then you took the leap to take advantage of this opportunity at Strategic Retirement Partners. Tell me how you got there, and tell me what you primarily do at Strategic Retirement Partners.
Well, and it's somewhat interesting. The umbrella organization for 401k Advisors was purchased by a large financial institution. And all of the people that were affiliated with 401k Advisors were given the opportunity to sell our businesses to that organization. But we didn't want to do that. So about half of us decided we like the situation that we're in currently, and we formed our own practice called Strategic Retirement Partners, where we all owned an equity stake across all of the different practices. So we all are partners together, but really have a vested interest in growing our own business for the long term. So we all own cross ownership of a lot of us, but delivering services to, again, small and medium-sized businesses.
So you have the opportunity to actually further your own personal goals while you're furthering the organizational goals as well, helping yourself and helping everyone within your network.
Exactly. And it's interesting because I'm responsible for myself, but then also helping build the organization as a whole, having some shared services, but a lot of the responsibility for growth was on myself.
Yeah. So, you're fascinating to me for several reasons. The first reason is you're what I call a master. You may not consider yourself a master, but I'll consider you a master. Let me tell you why. Because the path almost every master takes is that early on in their lives, they have a good idea of what their life work, life task, or life purpose is. And then they spend the rest of their life pursuing that. And so for you, at an early age, you decided, I want to work in the financial sector. I want to understand as much as I can about the financial sector. I want to be a part of it. I want to work in the financial sector. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what sparked that interest?
Well, so when I was in high school back in '87, different movie, but Wall Street was when I was in
Wall
high
Street
school
with
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
And I wanted to be a master of the universe, investment banking or investments. And so I always just liked stocks and found all of that stuff very interesting. And so that on the early part of my career was all investment focused on managing investments. And I got my chartered financial analyst designation, which is what managers of mutual funds have. And then I managed assets at SunTrust in their trust department.
So that spark pretty much was external. It was a movie, and you saw that, and you saw, wow, that sounds exciting. That sounds great. I'd love to be there one day. And that started your journey and got you to the point where you said, well, this may be my life's work.
Yes, but then I hit a little bit of a roadblock. As it turns out, I'm not actually that good at picking individual investments. So I spent a long time building up to, the pinnacle. Okay, I have my designation. I can manage money, and I don't think I have the emotional capacity to pick individual stocks, put together portfolios.
Yeah.
Big picture, yes, but on the individual, like nitty gritty stuff, not as much. And so realizing that, you could kind of, the definition of insanity is repeating the same mistakes over and over again. I could keep trying to do that where I wasn't very good at it and didn't enjoy it, or I really took a step back and said, what do I really enjoy about it? And it was the working with the people and kind of the big picture stuff.
But within that sector.
Absolutely.
You said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. Of course, that's one of Einstein's famous quotes. And when we think about Einstein was definitely a master. And he was about 5 or 6 years old when his dad gave him a compass. And he was just so fascinated that there was some invisible force out there that actually moved this thing. And that's how he really got into understanding and discovering his life purpose and his life work and his life task. For you, it was a movie. And so it got you on this path. So once you find out what your life task and life work is, then the masters usually go into an apprenticeship. And that can start at college, where you start to take a course. And you, of course, studied what in college?
Finance.
Yes. And then in the MBA program, what was your concentration?
Finance again.
And so that is a natural path for masters. And of course, they go into an apprenticeship. And of course, you had the opportunity at Charles Schwab. Tell us about Charles Schwab and what that was for you, and how that helped you develop the knowledge and the skills and the tools and the experience and the relationships that were the building blocks for the rest of your life's work.
So at Charles Schwab, I was already licensed from my work up in Pennsylvania.
So you got the license, but experience are different things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just basically, like having a driver's license and having driven for a month,
yes,
and you had no idea what you're doing. Charles Schwab really invested a lot in my education and training, and kind of dropped you in the deep end. I was on the phones 8 hours a day, but just basically taking over 100 calls a day, internal from clients, talking not just about their investment issues, but also just administrative issues as well, fixing problems. And so a wide variety of skills that kind of opened my eyes to helping people in a lot of different ways, not just focusing
on... But not only just doing it, because doing it is a big part of it, but you also saw people doing it.
Absolutely.
You saw people who are masters at the game, and you had a chance to see how they were doing it.
And not just masters at the game, people that were exactly the opposite. So
yes,
you see so many things where, wow, that guy really knows what he's doing, and oof, this person is doing it completely wrong. Now, at the time at Charles Schwab, it was very much do not give any advice to people at all. They didn't want to be sued for giving improper advice. So we could, I guess, view what people were doing, but couldn't say, are you sure you really don't want to do that? Or, that's a great idea. Yeah. It was strictly viewing it from the sidelines, but really being able to be like a sponge and take in and see kind of the right way things were done and the wrong way.
And that is really so important in that stage of becoming a master, because that's where you put in your 10,000 hours, right? For 6 years, if you work 40 hours a week, you more likely than that work more than that. But 40 hours a week from 6 years, that gives you 12,000 hours, which really sets you up to really have a strong understanding of the subject matter, about the people, building your emotional intelligence and building your empathy for these people. And sales is really a combination of three things, isn't it? It's the authority, which is the knowledge and the skill and the relationships and the tools and the ability. And it's also this idea of being able to understand who you're dealing with. Understand the jobs they have, the pains, the gains they're looking for, their aspirations, what tribes they belong to, their cultural issues, their belief systems, their values. So you know what they're thinking, you know what they're experiencing, you know what they want, and you know what they need. And so you're delivering what they want. You're delivering what they need as opposed to what you want to give to them. And so this journey that you went on from discovering your life's purpose and then going through this apprenticeship and then going through this process where you are now the master, and then forming your own organization and working with other people, and of course mentoring other people and doing for them what have been done for you. So how was that journey, and now that you're reflecting back on it, shaped your life?
So it's interesting because when I was working at Charles Schwab, I was 22, 23 years old, and was smarter than everyone, and happy to tell them I was much smarter then than I am today.
Yeah.
In my own mind.
Isn't that funny how that works?
It really is. But looking back on it, having the brand name behind you. So I didn't know as much as I thought I did, but I actually probably knew a lot more than I thought as well. And having that combination and the guardrails that were put on by the company that sort of let you have enough flexibility to work with people and learn on the job, but the oversight, so give you enough free reign without too much freedom to kind of keep you in the guardrails, was really valuable. And it really stuck with me a long time. I'll never forget, I had a situation where I was talking to a customer and my manager was standing over my shoulder just watching me trying to resolve an issue. And it was a trade error, and I was negotiating like how much was Schwab going to have to pay for this mistake that we made. And I went through the whole thing, and I think we settled it. We came to an agreement that it would be like $4,000 that Schwab was going to pay. And I hung up the phone, and my manager said, "Man, that was a terrible decision." He's like,
No kidding.
"Did you ever think maybe you could have done?" And he laid out for me how we could have done it differently and gotten to the same solution, but probably would have been better for Schwab and also better for the customer.
Okay.
And he said, I consider that an investment in your education on behalf of Schwab. He let me make the mistake, didn't make me feel stupid. I mean, kind of made me feel stupid, but not in a threatening way where I thought I was going to get fired over it, because he could have stepped in at any time. And he said, in the grand scheme of things, allowing me to make that mistake and learn from it was better for everyone involved than to just embarrass me and cut me off while I was in the middle of talking to the client. So
and that gets you to the point where he was and where you are today, is that you have flow. And he had flow. You didn't have flow at that time. And what he was doing was he was ensuring that you had the skills that you need to start develop that ability to have flow. So, this really dovetails into what I call the 7 major life cycles. And the 7 major life cycles are your personal life cycle, your relationship life cycle, your family life cycle. And those things are the most important, because if those aren't in great places, or what I call prime, then nothing else really matters.
Sure.
And then, of course, your professional life cycle. And we've been talking about your professional life cycle for most of the time so far. And then, of course, your work and job life cycles. And we touched on that a little bit. And then your financial life cycle, and then your enterprise life cycle. If, as a business owner, that could be the business life cycle. But as someone who works within an organization, it is the enterprise entrepreneurship that you exercise within it. So just scaling back to that first life cycle in your personal life cycle. How old are you now?
53.
And so you're in great shape. I heard that you've done at least 3 marathons.
Yep.
And so your cardiovascular ability is pretty good. You're toned. So your physical health is important to you, it appears. And then you've obviously done a great job in accumulating knowledge, and you're great with people. Your emotional intelligence is high. You are thoughtful about your spiritual life. So would you consider yourself in prime in your personal life cycle?
I think so. I mean, just it's finally to a point. Both my kids have graduated college. They're both employed.
But what about you? Forget about your kids for a minute. What about you?
Well, but I'm saying, you spend so much time just kind of devoting, getting them on the right path, getting my business on the right path. I'm to a point where I feel like I can do.
I'm going to stop you there for a minute, because that's exactly my point. I work with so many businesses, and they say, if I can get my business in order, if I can get my finances in order, if I can get my kids in order, if I can get my relationship in order, then I can be fine and I can work on myself, which obviously is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. You should be working on yourself first. Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health are more important than anything else, because, if you're, it's like the airplane analogy, right? If there's an emergency, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you do anyone else. And so it's interesting to me that your thought was, all this out of the way, now I can work on me, as opposed, let me work on me so I can be stronger for everyone else. And that is a common thing with businesses. As you counsel businesses, do you see the same phenomenon?
It varies, but I mean, a lot of times, yes. Especially now, there's been, when the economy's doing great, then everyone's doing great and no problems. But when there's difficult times, you see people really having to make cuts, having to do things that they would rather not do, working hours that they would rather not.
And they sacrifice their personal life cycle. And they may have been in prime at some point, but they regress back into an earlier developmental stage, or they age pretty quickly.
Yes.
And then, you've been married for a long, but before I do that, I hear that you snow ski.
I haven't for a while.
Yes.
But yeah, I used to go every year, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, being active, that's pretty important. So you've been married for a while. How long have you been married?
Since 1996.
Since 1996. So you're almost on 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so you and your wife are empty nesters now?
Almost.
Yeah.
My youngest son has graduated from college, but he's living at home just for another couple months. He's working, so he's not just up in the attic playing his video games or anything, but building some cash so that he can actually pay for, buy some furniture or live in an apartment. But we're as close to being empty nesters as I think we can.
Yeah,
be.
and so you're in your relationship life cycle. Would you say you're in prime?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My wife and I are spending a lot more time together on ourselves rather than always, what are you doing for this child? What are you doing for that child?
Yeah.
Having to focus so much on school stuff. Even with the kids away in college, my wife was still, hovering over, making sure everything was going on. But
Of
now
course.
we're getting better at letting them make their own mistakes
Yeah.
in their work lives.
And so that dovetails into the family life cycle. Your first son is out of college and he's working, he's independent, he's on his own, and your youngest is in that process of becoming independent and going on his own. And so would you consider your family life cycle to be in prime as well?
I definitely would. If I could get my younger son to be able to navigate without his Google Maps and actually look outside, that would be a triumph.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think we're very happy with where things are overall.
Well, we're all hijacked to some extent by technology, and the younger generation more so because they're digital natives.
Certainly.
And so getting them either to recognize that, or even looking at ourselves and saying, that's my perspective. Maybe I should switch my perspective and let them do what they're doing, because in their eyes, we may be doing it wrong, and they may be ahead of the curve. And so I'm looking at those now: your personal life cycle in prime, your relationship life cycle in prime, your family life cycle in prime. You are a master at what you do, so your professional life cycle is in prime. And then now you are, I'm assuming, in flow in your work. And so you've got all those in prime, and you work in the financial sector. And so for me, your financial prime is you have 3 buckets. You have one that covers all of your monthly expenses. You have one that has fun bucket. You can go to skiing, ski trips. You can travel around the world. You can do whatever you want to do. You can buy that nice car if you want to. Take your wife out to dinner a few times a week and listen to some music. And then you have a savings bucket that has enough money in it that the passive income covers your fun bucket and your monthly expenses bucket, but still has something left over. So I'm sure you've been working on achieving prime in your financial life cycle as well.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the most. I'm proud of being at a place in my financial life cycle where now I'm able to even just work on things that
You want to work on.
I want to work on that aren't necessarily even as profitable, but I think are more fulfilling.
Yes.
And so that's an area that I'm really excited about for my firm, and being able to, I guess, generate some of the knowledge, or I guess expand some of the knowledge that I've gained over the years to areas that we really haven't been able to work with in the past. In financial services, you typically get paid as like part of a percentage of assets,
Sure.
or based on the size of your accounts. And so that really precludes you from working with some of the smaller businesses, a 10-person company, a 20-person company. And you say, there's just no way to deal with that profitably. And I don't have to worry about that as much now. And so I can really, I've shifted a lot of focus into access to retirement for as many people as possible, because it's not just the business owners of those small businesses, but the employees of a lot of these small businesses don't have access to saving for retirement.
So we'll jump into that for a minute.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. We'll jump into that for a minute, but I really want to focus on you.
Okay.
Because a lot of times business owners need to see a good example. And so in your financial life cycle, you believe that you've achieved prime. And that gives you the flexibility, or as Mel Gibson says in Braveheart, freedom. And that freedom gives you the opportunity not to only work on achievement, but fulfillment as well, and try to bring some of that fulfillment to other people. Entrepreneurs usually focus on achievement, and you can achieve everything you want to, but you still won't be fulfilled. But if you don't work on both of them together, you may end up in a place that you don't recognize, and that may be very, very disappointing to you, and that may have negative consequences. So now let's dovetail a little to the business life cycle. You've had the chance to develop this business. You've worked now for almost 8 years. Next month will be 8 years, I think, that you're working in this company that you helped form. And so you've had a chance to see this company go from newborn to infant, to toddler, to preteen, to teen, to young adult, and into prime. How was that journey? And what role did you play in that journey?
So it's really been fascinating, because when we started, it was just kind of a bunch of people. I want to say guys, but actually we're probably more than 50% female owned, which is very unusual in the financial services industry. But so a bunch of us, really probably 10 or 12 of us, forming this company. And now there's about 150 people nationwide in the company. So that's been fascinating. I'm sure a lot of people listening have gotten to the point where I don't know everybody in the company anymore, which it's strange, because, we used to all be able to fit in one conference room, and now we're having our national conference next month, and we had to move to another city in a bigger
and you have to rent
room.
A venue,
right? Exactly. I mean, like, we used to just not even really have to plan things. We would just kind of call each other up and say, okay, we need to get together and talk about the business, and just go. Now we have an event planner working on an event. Yes. And so it's really a lot more, I guess, cumbersome. But it's also it's important to keep hiring the same types of people, and making sure, instilling what kind of people do we want to work with. So even if I haven't met everyone that we work with, when we go to these conferences, or when I meet people at other events that work with us or work for us, I'm like, oh, I can totally see why why they chose to work with us, and why we chose to hire them. And we have kind of a unique business model that we acquire practices like myself. Yes. So we're acquiring entrepreneurs like myself, but then also from the corporate level, hiring the support staff to be able to support the people that join our business. So
you're really making sure the hub is solid. And as you bring additional spokes in, you're making sure that they're qualified, they're suitable, and that the organizational leadership is there to support them. Fantastic model. Yeah. Fantastic model.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the pillar of our kind of success, we kind of say it's people, process, and technology. Yes. And so people being first, but then having the processes in place to be able to integrate those people, and leveraging the technology to be able to implement those processes. So just those three pillars have really been, I guess, helpful in us. And I wish I could say I was instrumental in implementing a lot of that, a lot of the culture stuff. Yes, but working with people that know how to put together processes and stuff.
But the proof is in the pudding.
Certainly,
you've certainly had some consistent growth and development over the years, and not just measured in terms of money, but in terms of the amount of people that actually work within your organization, the impact that you've made, on the people's lives as well. So I appreciate you spending so much time really helping us understand you. Like I said at the beginning of this, I consider you to be a master. And you've gone through the stages that are required to become a master. Whether you did it intentionally or not, I don't know. But you did go through those stages. And in fact, most people who have become masters, they have gone through those stages without even realizing they're going through those stages. Charles Darwin, for example, went through the same thing. Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, all went through stages, but they weren't consciously saying, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps in the process to do that. They just did it. And I think you did the same thing. And now it's clear to me that you're a master at what you do, and you bring that to your organization. Now, the people that you work with, the businesses that you work with, the clientele that you work with, within the 7 major life cycles, your example can really serve them in a great way. I know that you focus primarily on retirement planning and retirement strategies. So how can you actually help a business with that, stemming from not only the entrepreneur or the leaders in the business, but also continuing down the line to everyone within the organization?
So retirement plans, or a retirement plan, is really a cornerstone of being able to help both the business owner, but also the employees towards financial wellness. And that's really what we focus on, is the overall financial wellness. Because if you're concerned about just being able to survive, you're not necessarily focusing on your work. And so there's really a lot of value to being able to generate not just the week-to-week survival, but the long-term viability of someone from a financial perspective. And we work with business owners in trying to set up a retirement plan that helps them recruit and retain employees, but then also set their employees up, not just to be able to have a successful retirement. I mean, that's very important, but that's not necessarily the primary focus of everyone. We try and figure out ways that they can save for retirement, but first and foremost, helping people have emergency savings so that they can meet unexpected expenses, and a path to being able to just get that as a first step. And there's some really unique ways to be able to use a retirement plan to be able to save for retirement, but also have a piece of that available for emergency expenses so that you can sort of kill two birds with one stone. Hopefully you never even have to draw into that emergency savings.
So talk to me a little bit about, that's a great overall view. Talk to me a little bit about the differences between working with the entrepreneur, the business owner, working with the leaders, and working with everyone else that works within the organization. Is there a difference in the approach? Is there a difference in what they want, what they need? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so one of the key challenges for employers or business owners is attracting talent and being able to have good employees. And so the war for talent is tremendous these days. And not having a retirement plan is a competitive disadvantage for a small business.
So from the company's point of view, so you added another category that I didn't think of. Thank you. So if we start from the organizational point of view, so the organization has needs, has wants. And so what you're saying needs is to have enough of a benefits program, and what you provide should be a part of the benefits program to make it attractive. Right. And then leaving that category and going to the entrepreneur themselves for their personal benefit. What's the difference?
Well, and so saving for retirement is very important to entrepreneurs as well. And the retirement plans that we work with allow the business owner to save more money for their retirement at the same time.
Which is different, because not only do they have maybe a salary from the business, but they also have the opportunity to share in the profits of the business, assuming the business is profitable. And so they have more mechanisms available to them than the other workers.
And it also allows them to diversify, because really, for most business owners, their biggest investment is their business. Exactly. Yeah. But if you can have some savings and some actual retirement savings in another pot of money, that can go a long way to helping have some peace of mind and having some liquidity.
And that's an important conversation for the entrepreneur, right? Look, you cannot just rely on the business to be your major and only asset. You've got to diversify your portfolio so that you can manage that risk.
Exactly.
Yes. And so great. You've got the business conversation. Hey, this is about attracting and keeping talent. You've got the entrepreneur's conversation. This is about your diversification so that you can manage your risk effectively, so that you're not in a tough position when you get the opportunity to retire, because selling a business isn't the easiest thing. Exit strategies are not the easiest thing. Necessary and can be very lucrative. But what if your business has a bad cycle? So what about mid-level managers in a business?
So for the mid-level managers, typically can afford to, or are looking for a way to save money, and are looking for more competitive benefits packages overall. So not just the check the box, I have a retirement plan, but what is the company doing for me in that retirement plan, both from a monetary standpoint. Everyone wants to get more money from, a match or profit sharing contributions, which are ways that the company can provide extra money, but also just other services or assistance with the, different types of benefits through a retirement plan, like a financial wellness program that can help evaluate, should you rent or buy a car? Should you rent or buy a house? How do I budget? And that's not necessarily, you'd be surprised. You think, budgeting and the financial wellness stuff, that's just for the entry-level employees. My mid-level managers don't need that. But more and more, we're seeing people earning $100,000, $200,000 having mountains of credit card debt and not knowing how to really manage their finances and spending every last penny. And so even just working in those areas is important because, again, if you think about it, if you have an employee that's stressed about credit card debt or, can I
Right.
make
If
my
their
next
financial
payments?
life cycle is at a toddler stage, their focus is going to go there. They're not going to spend a lot of time focusing on your business.
Absolutely.
So most people would think that these mid-level managers are more savvy and they're more conscious of those things because they're leaders within the business. But in fact, they actually need to be educated. They need advice. They need assistance. And quite frankly, that's a part that the entrepreneurs don't really pay attention to, and the people who are working and doing the task and the day-to-day things, they sort of assume these guys know what they're doing, and so it's a missed opportunity.
And a lot of times, some of the highest paid people in the organization are the worst at it, and it's not the managers; it's the sales guys.
It's the sales
The
guys.
sales guys that are making a ton of money, but also probably have the most volatile income.
Yeah.
And those are the people that can benefit from some of the coaching the most. We could say, listen, I know that you blew out your numbers and you're getting a huge bonus. How about if you put a little bit more of that away for a rainy day
Yeah.
and really trying to coach that? And a lot of times trying to find out ways where maybe you're not doing the one-on-one coaching or trying to get someone to make an active decision,
Sure.
but setting up the processes and the plan so that the decisions are sort of automatic. And so if you can get people saving when they don't even necessarily realize that they're saving, that works phenomenally.
Yeah.
Because then they're saving in spite of themselves.
That's correct. So thank you for that because you gave me another category I didn't really pay attention to, which are the salespeople, which is a different category from the task providers. So you gave me the business's interest in looking at retirement planning and retirement plans. You gave me the entrepreneur's perspective on looking at at options and diversifying the portfolio. You gave me the mid-level manager's perspective, which is surprising to me that they would need more help. But now that I think about it more often than not, they're not paying attention to those things as much as they should. And then you've given me the people who are doing the sales who typically have oscillating income, and sometimes they're pretty high earners, but they have a pretty interesting lifestyle. And so they usually spend a lot on a consistent basis.
Absolutely.
And so you have within the business at least those four categories, but then you've got the people who are actually doing all of the work. The people who are providing the actual services, who are making the transactions happen, who may be actually out there in the ditch doing the work, who may be in the office doing the typing, the word processing, answering the phones, customer service, all those other people. What about that group?
And that's where the automatic enrollment has been incredibly powerful because people don't live based on their salary. They live based on their paycheck. And people get used to whatever that paycheck is. And so automatic enrollment is a way that you can implement a retirement plan and just automatically put people into that at a certain savings rate.
Yeah.
But not just that, increasing it on an annual basis so that they start putting 3% of their money away, then 4% the next year, then 5%. But automating it so that they never really have to see the money coming out, because study after study have shown that people want to save for retirement,
Yes.
but they never get around to it. Similar to people in Europe, and I'm sure you've seen the study where they talk about organ donation.
Yeah.
And so if you are automatically going to be an organ donor, 80% of people donate their organs. If you don't have it, like you have in the United States, less than 20% of people do it. It's the same thing in retirement plans. If you are automatically enrolled in a retirement plan, doesn't matter if you are making $8 an hour or $150,000, $250,000.
You're gonna do
You do it and you don't opt out of it and you don't change anything. So it's imperative to set the plan up right so that at some point you can get people, if they don't do anything, if they take no active role in their retirement, you have someone that's worked for you for 25 years and they've never even thought about retirement. You would like that person to be able to retire. Well, if you set the plan up right, they will have been saving probably about 10% of their income for that time with match. Even if you can't afford to put any company dollars into that, they probably will be able to retire reasonably well based on just the contributions they've made that they've never even thought about doing.
Yeah, so I mean, what the services that you provide in this space that you're in, that you've achieved prime in, critical for businesses. And not only is critical for businesses because you're a master at it, you are able to identify different categories within the business. Mm-hmm. Whereas someone who's not a master, maybe they may look, you want to set this up for your business. And this should be this should be something across the really just applying to every single person within the organization. But with your ability to have nuanced understandings of the company, of the entrepreneur, of the leaders in the company, of the managers, of the salespeople, of the workers, not only can you have that baseline, but you can have other types of options available to them that really meets them where they are.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what we do is we'll come into a company that has had a plan for years and years and years and just look at it and say, why did you set it up this way? Because sometimes the way that the plan is set up works counter to what you're trying to accomplish for an organization. Mm-hmm. You have an organization that, for example, maybe has high turnover, and they do something that's called a safe harbor match, but basically give money from the employee and from the employer to the employee, and it has immediate vesting, meaning that as soon as the company gives the money into the retirement plan on behalf of the employee, it's theirs and they can leave whenever they want. Mm-hmm. Well, so if you hire someone and they work for you for a year and leave, they leave with that match, even though they haven't really contributed to the organization.
In fact, first year, you're probably doing more training than anything else.
Exactly. So there's ways to set it up so that, you know what, we're going to put that money in the plan for you, but until you hit your second anniversary, if you leave before then, that money's going to go back to the company. Yeah. Once you last that 2 years, because most of the time, if someone's been with the company for 2 years, they're going to be there a lot longer. And those are the people that you want to reward. Yeah. But we'll go into a company and say, you're spending all of this money on matching dollars, and look at how many people are leaving early on. And so if you have a high turnover, just examining, are you getting the bang for the buck on the money that you're spending? Because there's a lot of, you see in the newspaper all the time, 401k expenses and how expensive 401ks are. The biggest expense of a 401k plan for a company is typically the match.
The match.
And getting an ROI on that is vital. You know, if you're going to spend $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 on matching dollars for your employees, you want to make sure that it's going to the employees that are going to appreciate it, and it's going to accomplish something for them, but also for you. You don't want to reward the people that aren't going to contribute to the long-term viability and health of the corporation.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Getting back to the 7 major life cycles.
Sure.
What you do in helping companies, entrepreneurs, leaders, managers, salespeople, and the workers, 6 categories now within the organization, right? It really will not only help them with their financial life cycle, mm-hmm. but also helps the enterprise, the business, with the business life cycle and accelerate mm-hmm. the growth and development from the business.
Certainly.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, it's been a joy talking to you. You have such a wealth of important knowledge. And in my view, you serve as a mentor to many people in areas you probably never thought that you did mm-hmm. When you examine all of your 7 major life cycles. I'm sure people are looking at you within your organization and people that you meet generally and saying, wow, this guy's in his 50s and he's done 3 marathons, he skis, he's in great shape, he's been married for a long time, his relationship is in prime, he's raised 2 boys and in today's world, and they're productive and they're independent. He's a master at what he does, every job that he does, he gets into prime in those jobs, and he does them with a degree of professionalism and competence and confidence that really is inspiring. And he's comfortable enough in his financial life cycle where he doesn't have to do what he doesn't want to do. He can actually seek fulfillment in helping other people travel through their life cycle and achieve mm-hmm. prime. And then you've done the entrepreneurial thing with the business. So whether you know it or not, you're innately a leader and innately have these inspirational qualities about you. And what's great about it is that you don't even know it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, do me a favor and tell everyone how to get in contact with you.
Sure. So my email address is phils@ srpretire.com. That's Strategic Retirement Partners, srpretire.com. Or our website is www.srpretire.com.
Yeah, and so I'm going to end in this way. I know that your favorite color is navy blue. Why?
I went to Penn State.
Yes.
Blue and white.
Yes. And that your favorite movie is Wall Street, and now we know why.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
But you have an obsession. And that obsession is what?
Really helping people achieve a successful retirement, but everybody, not just for the elites and not just for big companies. It's really driving access to retirement to everyone. It's really been rewarding to be able to move towards a direction where I can help more and more people, not just at the high level.
And so that you've had the ability to achieve things. So you've mastered achievement, and now you've had the opportunity to work in fulfillment, and you're mastering fulfillment. And so I can't wait to see what you do next. Pleasure, Phil. Now, thank you for joining us on Private Corporate Counsel. We've had the opportunity to speak with Phil Senderowitz, who has shared quite a bit of information. And I think that this is one of those episodes that you may want to look at over and over again, because there's just so much in there. Thanks a lot, Phil. Good to see you. Pleasure. Look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Please continue to listen to our podcast to learn more. Contact us at 877-647-7887 or email us at info@pcc.law to learn more about the Private Corporate Counsel program and how we can help you and your business on your journey to success.